Okay, today we're going to build a sprint mechanic so that our player can walk. It'll be walking, and then we can go into a run mode or sprint mode, and then come back out, back to walk. So what I'm going to do is it'll be the shift key, holding down the shift key to sprint and releasing it. We will go back to walk, and then after we'll do that first. And then we'll look into doing a stamina bar for that. So let's create an empty under the interactions, and we're going to call it sprint. We'll put it under where all the other interactions are, under the player, and we'll call it sprint. If we look at the player in the animation, where the start state is walk, so what we want to do is in the sprint, we're going to have a trigger that's going to look for the keyboard press of left shift. And when left shift happens, then we're going to enter the state, the run state. And there's already a run state. So if you install the examples that comes with Game Creator, you get a run state. So we're going to run with the left shift, and then we're going to do another trigger on interact input button, keyboard release this time. So looking for the release of the left shift, and then we will stop the state in layer 1. So it'll go back to the walk state after that. So let's take a look. Let's try that out. Okay, so walking, and then hold down shift and we're running. So that seems to be working, and then we're walking again. Running, walking. Yep, it's working. Okay, good. That's working. Another thing we can do is change the field of view on the camera. So the camera shot, we can change the field of view, and we're going to change it to 40 on the state run, and then you could say have a duration and an easing. So we'll do that, and then on the stop, we'll change it back. Camera, change field of view back to 60, and let's see how that works. Okay. All right, so let me just create some more objects so we could see what we're doing when we run past them. So it sort of zooms in when you're running and zooms out when you're walking. So you can do effects like that with the camera. And the other thing we can do is if we go to the run state, we could change the speed to 8 and see what that does. Okay, so then you really go fast. A little too fast, actually. So maybe we don't want to do that, go that fast. So I'll put it back to 4. So that's that. So next, what I want to do is implement a stamina bar. So let's create a stamina variable, but I'm going to put the player stats in a new game creator variables object, another name variable. We'll call it player stats because I'm not using the stats module for this, so I'm just keeping it to the core for now. But so we'll just do the stats as a variable. So we can do stamina, and the value is 100. So we'll go between 0 and 100 to be the value for stamina. And then we just need to create a UI component for it so we can see the bar. So I'm going to create like a HUD, a new canvas. So UI canvas, and we'll call it a HUD, the HUD canvas. And then, so this one will be scale with screen size 1080. Set it to that, and then we can create a slider. I'm going to create a game creator UI slider so that we get the extra game creator stuff. So this will be called the stamina, and we're going to anchor it down to the bottom left, I guess. And let's see, 50, 50, 50. The width, so we can make it a lot bigger. So 400 maybe by 100. That's better. So, and then, so we're going to get rid of the handle slide area though, because we don't need that handle. So let's get rid of it. Just delete it. And then we want the fill area, the fill color, we can change it to like a yellow maybe. And this, we can get rid of this offset too. So we get 0 and 0, I think. And what else? This offset as well, 0 and 0. So you get, it will fill the whole thing. So background, image, okay, so stamina. So it goes from 0 to 100. So yeah, 100. So we go from 0 to 100. There we go. So it's going to start at 100. To use a color, yeah. So we don't. These colors don't do anything. We don't need it to be interactable either, and the color transition can be none because we don't have that handle. So that's that. And then, so you could do top to bottom on this if you wanted a top to bottom one, but we're going to use left to right for now. And then set from source, we want to use that, and we'll set the variable so that it'll pick up the value from the stamina variable. But we're not changing it, so the onChange set won't set that. But I think set from source will pick it up though. So we'll set it anyway. It might not do anything, but we'll set it. We'll do it anyway. So when we're doing a sprint, we want the stamina bar to go down, and then when we're not sprinting, we want it to go up, back up to 100. So So inside here, we're just going to put an empty game object in here, and then this can be the manager, stamina manager, and then we just put it in here. It just has an empty transform, so we set that to 0, 0, 0, doesn't matter. And we're going to put a trigger in here, and so on update. So we want to check if the player is, so we're going to need conditions. If the player is sprinting, then we do one thing. If the player is not sprinting, then we can do another. So I'm going to add a global variable here that is going to be is sprinting Boolean, a Boolean, false by default. So in here, we'll check if the is sprinting is true. Okay. So if it's true, and then the other branch will be if it's false. So if it's false, so if it's true, we want to decrease the stamina increment. So increment number, and we're going to increment the stamina by negative, let's say negative 5. So if we're sprinting, so we want to like run conditions here too. Make sure we run that. So if it's sprinting, then we'll reduce the stamina, and if it's not sprinting, then we'll increment it by +5. And then the other thing we need to do here is set the UI. Where is it? Change the slider. And set the value to the variable, the stamina variable. Okay. And then we'll do the same down here. Oops. Oh, no. Stamina. Okay. So we also want a condition compare decimal. So we're only going to increment it if it's less than 100. So if the stamina is, if we're not sprinting and the stamina is less than 100, then we're going to increment it. And then we're going to do if it is greater than 0, then we'll decrement it so it doesn't go below 0. So, and then we have to go back into here and change the set the Boolean is sprinting to true, and true and false. So that one is true, and turn it off when we're not sprinting. Let's see how that works. Oop. Maybe we're going too far. Oh yeah, okay. I think we need to, yeah, so we need to it's going too fast. So what we need to do is, in the increment, we want to multiply this by time.delta time. Let's see, math. Multiply decimals. So we want to take our -5 and multiply it by time delta time, and do the same thing over here. That way it'll be 5 per second instead of every frame. So I'll multiply decimals, 5, and delta time. Let's see if that fixes it. Yeah, it seems to be working. The only thing is, if we're not actually moving and we press the shift, it thinks it's running, but it's not really. So that needs to be fixed. So to fix that issue, we need to add a conditions here. So let's check conditions before we do that, and then we can check to see if the character, the player, is moving. And then if the player's moving, then we put the state run when the left shift is put down. Otherwise, we don't enter the run state unless the player's already is moving. So let's see if that fixes it. Okay. So now the shift does nothing. And then when I press it while I'm moving, then it works. So we have to move first. So putting down shift and then moving isn't going to work. But moving first, then press shift, puts us in the run state. So the other thing, we don't want the player to be able to run if the stamina is too low. So let's say compare decimal. There we go. Stamina is greater than 0. Then we can no. Stamina is greater than 0. Then we can enter the run. Or we could say, what we can do. We could say we can only enter a run if you have enough stamina to do it. So we could say stamina has to be greater than 80. Let's just try 80 to enter a run state, and then it'll force you to regenerate stamina before you can run again. So I'll run it down for a bit, and then I'll come out of the run, and I can go in. Okay, let's just run it right down. So now I cannot run at all. It's just forcing me to walk until we get to 80%, and now I can run again. So that's pretty good. And so the next thing I want to do is, if the stamina goes below or goes to 0, then it'll, if we're running, it'll stop the run state. So let's do that in here. I can put another trigger, and this one will be on global variable change. So anytime the stamina changes, I'm going to add instruction. Let's do a check conditions, add condition, compare decimal. So if it equals 0 and let's see, compare Boolean. So we're going to check if we're running, is sprinting, is true. So if the stamina is 0 and the sprinting is true, then we can stop the state. Stop state in layer 1. So that will force the player out of run mode when he runs out of stamina. And then he won't be able to go back in until 80 stamina. So that should do it. Okay, here we go. Let's run it down. We're at 0. Now we're back in walk. So we're now forced to walk again until it goes back to 80, and then we'll be allowed to go and run again. There we go, running again. We're out of stamina, and we are walking now. And it actually won't start regenerating your stamina until you let go of the shift key too, which is okay, I think. It sort of makes the player release the key. So that's it then. So that is a simple stamina meter with sprinting. And I think in the next video we're going to do a health bar and a health stat so that the player could get damaged and die, and if it goes below 0 then the player can die, and we'll look into that. So stay tuned for the next one, and if you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and we'll see you in the next one.